We are just waiting for Councillor Fitzgerald. Is Councillor Fitzgerald with us, Crystal?
Yes, I can see Councillor Fitzgerald is in our participants list. He may just be away from his computer at this minute.
All right, well, you know, I'm going to change the name and we're going to get started without him. All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone to the hearing. I confirm that we have quorum and Councillor Fitzgerald is on his way. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity on our sacred spaces, and take actions towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. Welcome, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair Stone. I was waiting to get promoted as a panelist.
Oh, well.
I joined a little later than usual this morning. Good morning, everyone.
Moved by Kenneth Donald, seconded by Helena Renwick. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment agenda dated January 18, 2022 be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Moved by Kenneth Donald, seconded by Brandon Stapleton. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes dated December 8, 2021, and the recommendations contained therein be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the public meetings to consider applications for minor variances to the zoning bylaw. The input received by agencies, public, and staff is important in order for the committee to make sound planning decisions. The procedure to be followed in these meetings will be as follows. A brief explanation of the application and any correspondence received to date will be given by staff. The applicant or the representative will be asked to provide any additional comments without repeating the information already outlined by staff. Any members of the public present will then be permitted to ask questions or provide comments respecting the applications. Any persons making representation are requested to first state their name and mailing address. Please note the presentations are limited to 10 minutes. Once the hearing is concluded, the input received will be considered by the committee prior to making a decision on the applications. If you wish to be notified of a decision of the committee, you must file a written request for notification. All right. And with that, we are going to our first application. Kelsey's going to talk about 238 North Drive.
Great, thank you so much. Good to see you all in this new year. I'll just set up my screen. And I can imagine everyone can see that.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, good morning again, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 238 North Drive. The lot is designated waterfront and is zoned Shoreline Residential 1. The application has been submitted to permit the construction of a detached garage. A minor variance is required to decrease the interior side yard setback from 6 meters to 2.3 meters for the detached garage, and to increase accessory lot coverage from 5% to 5.3%. The garage is proposed on a portion of the property south of the laneway, where the abutting properties have no development on that portion of the property or habitable structures. The garage is also compliant with all other setbacks. Additional vegetation between the property line and the proposed garage is recommended to provide additional screening, which would be implemented through site plan control should the minor variance be approved. The 3.3% increase in accessory lot coverage is also considered a minor deviation and result in no further development along the shoreline. Looking at the official plan, the proposal would result in minimal visual impact from the water as the garage is screened by existing development and trees at the shoreline. The garage also reflects the surrounding waterfront residential character, as other properties on the laneway have also developed garages or utility sheds on the south side of the lane. Natural constraint mapping identifies deer wintering habitat and unevaluated fish habitat at the front of the property. As the garage is sited 59.2 meters away from the shoreline, risk to fish habitat are mitigated. The garage is also to be placed in an area that is already cleared, so adverse impacts to deer wintering habitat will be minimized. Retention and enhancement of existing vegetation will also be implemented through site plan control. Excuse me. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and to the Lake Vernon Association. The building department commented that the setback will need to be pinned due to the reduced setback. Please also note that when the application was first circulated, a comment was received noting that the garage was in the existing right-of-way. The applicant was asked to revise the proposal and to move the garage outside of this easement. The applicant has now done this. A letter of support was also received and attached to the report package. Based on the analysis, the application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests of a minor variance, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or their representative to make any comments.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raise hand button or press *9 to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I see 2 hands raised. Oh, now I see 1.
All right, let's bring them in.
Okay. Please note that during the transition, your video panel will be momentarily interrupted. Once you've been added to the meeting, your video will appear in the committee member panel. Please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and confirm your name and mailing address.
Good morning. I'd just like to, my name's Les Hess. I'm at 11 James Street in Seguin, Ontario. I just wanted to thank the committee for hearing our request, and for Kelsey for doing the great job of presenting it. Thank you. And we have nothing really further to add. We just want to be available for any questions.
Perfect. If you take your video down, but stay with us, I'm going to go to the public. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak to this application?
Members of the public are reminded to use the raise hand button to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
All right, then I will go to committee members. Are there any comments or questions? All right. I think that was well presented. Thank you, Kelsey. Moved by Helena Renwick, seconded by Kenneth Donald. Be it resolved that minor variance application A43 2021 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsections 3.1.6 and 3.1.15.3b of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to reduce the eastern interior side yard setback from 6 meters to 2.3 meters for a 57.2 square meter detached one-story garage, and increase the accessory lot coverage from 5% to 5.3%, conditional on the owner maintaining existing vegetation on site, the owner revegetating the shoreline buffer, and the owner maintaining or establishing a 2-meter wide treed buffer area between the proposed garage and the eastern interior side yard setback, all to the satisfaction of the town of Huntsville, to be implemented through site plan control. Any comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Les. All right, Kelsey, you're moving on to the MBC 8 Pioneer Avenue application.
Great, thank you so much. Just set up again. Perfect. I believe you could all see that. Thank you again, Mr. Chair. The subject property is located at 8 Pioneer Avenue. The lot is designated waterfront, and the portion with the accessory building, the subject accessory building, is zoned natural resource NR. The application has been submitted to permit an expansion to an existing non-compliant accessory structure being used for marine storage and recreational use within the institutional tourist establishment. A minor variance is required to reduce the setback from type 1 fish habitat from 30 meters to 2.1 meters for the addition to the accessory building. The NR zone does not permit buildings or structures normally. However, minor expansions are permitted, provided it is no more than the height of the original structure and complies with all their provisions of the bylaw. As the building further encroaches into the setback, as the building will further encroach into the setback for type 1 fish habitat, relief was required through this application. To protect the sensitive fish habitat, staff have asked the applicant to revegetate the 15-meter shoreline buffer for the shoreline surrounding the accessory building. The applicant has also agreed to remove 2 accessory buildings located east of the subject building that are also within the required setback from type 1 fish habitat. They have also agreed to revegetate these areas. So by removing these buildings and revegetating the areas of prior disturbance, the risk to sensitive fish habitat is further reduced. These conditions are within the minor variance and will be implemented through site plan control should the minor variance be approved. Looking at the other aspects of the official plan, the proposal reflects the existing character of the property and its institutional tourist establishment aesthetics and the waterfront area. The addition is also greater than 500 meters away from any operating or identified non-operating waste disposal site in the area, as well as minor expansions to legal non-complying buildings are permitted in flood-prone lands. The application was circulated in accordance with the provision of the Planning Law Act and to the Mary Lake Association. A letter of support was provided and attached to the report package. The Lake Association provided comments that they were concerned about shoreline runoff associated with the existing building and addition, and they recommended revegetation as a mitigation measure. Through these details, the application would appear to conform with the intent of the official plan and the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests of minor variance, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you so much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. Is the applicant or the representative here to speak to this application?
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raise hand button to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I do see 1 hand raised. A reminder to please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and confirm your name and mailing address.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. Wayne Simpson, as agent for Muskoka Bible Center. My address is 3-76 King William Street, Huntsville, P1H 1E4. Kelsey's done a great job in summarizing the application. The building is rather small, as you can tell from the pictures. It's only about 300 square feet in floor area, and the proposed is just an addition of about 50% more on the north side of the building, where there is an existing deck. The building is affectionately known as the Paddle Shack, and it's where people using the shoreline areas, renting canoes, kayaks, can pick up their personal flotation devices and paddles and all those other good things. So it's a facility geared for the guests of the conference center, and it's a very minor addition. The building is pretty close to the shoreline. Actually, there's a retaining wall. That boat basin must have been dredged or constructed years and years ago. So there's a retaining wall about 2.5 meters, or 8 to 10 feet away from the existing building. That's not being further reduced, but there's going to be more of the building at that distance, and there's a good distance between the building and the beach area. It is what it is. It's already been altered in terms of the existing deck. So that's, the purpose of this is to make that paddle shack function better in terms of its storage needs and being able to serve its purpose. There are two other buildings on the opposite side of the boat of the basin, along also facing the shoreline, that are redundant and no longer needed. So as part of the discussions with the town, the decision was made by MBC to remove those two buildings. And so we're making one addition to one building and removing two buildings that would have a greater area, greater square footage than the one that's being the addition itself. And as Kelsey said, the areas that were previously disturbed because of the construction of these buildings and how they were used and how they related to the shoreline area, there'll be landscaping completed under the site plan agreement with municipality to do that. MBC can't commit to revegetating all the shoreline because they have a lot of shoreline, but certainly in these areas, critical areas where this one building is awfully close to the shoreline and where the other two buildings are being removed, is something MBC is quite prepared to do. So we ask that the committee look favorably upon the application. If you have any questions you want to direct to me, I'll be sitting in the background. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll go to the public and ask if any member of the public wishes to speak to this.
Members of the public are reminded to use the raise hand button to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
Thanks very much. Committee members, any comments or questions? Kelsey, can I just ask if can you elaborate on the revegetation? Mr. Simpson says there's a ton of shoreline to be revegetated, but they can't do it all. So how much of that is going to be done and how extensive? Is it just a couple trees and bushes put down near the water, or what are we looking at?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. So when we look at revegetation, and it's through to the satisfaction of the town, so we'll ensure that it's conforming with our policy. So it all has to be native vegetation, and we have, like, in our policy, a certain proportion of trees, small and medium, and then a certain portion of shrubs and ground cover that are all written out and described in the policy. And the area we highlighted, I could pull up a picture of it, it's more helpful to illustrate, but there's kind of a peninsula, and then there goes into the docking facilities and then around. So the three buildings are around there. So that's where we asked for it to be revegetated.
I'd appreciate you throwing that up for us.
Okay, great. I'll work on that. Just give me a second. I'll just mute myself.
Helena, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I ask just more of a comment too? and I think it relates to the question that you just asked. The fact that the vegetation would need to be put, obviously, where the buildings are being removed, that makes sense. But there won't be any vegetation being put around this structure, the paddle shack.
That's a good question. Kelsey will speak to that.
Okay. Sorry, you had two.
Thank you for your question. So I'll just show the area so everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
So what I had sent, oh, it just put a different layer on. Sorry about that. So what I had sent to the applicant and to Wayne Simpson was a picture of this area and just looking at overall revegetation around these specific areas around the accessory building. And then these are the two existing ones that are going to be removed. So revegetating within the 15 meters here as well. So those were the areas that we discussed.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Were there any questions about the map before I take it down, or?
Ms. Renwick, did you have any? No? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Kelsey.
No
That's great. I think everybody will love it anyway when it's finally revegetated. All right. If there's no other questions, moved by Brandon Stapleton, seconded by Jason Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that minor variance application A44-2021 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsection 3.5.1 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P. In order to reduce the setback from type 1 fish habitat from 30 meters to 2.1 meters for a 14.8 square meter addition to a 29.7 square meter marine storage building. Conditional on the owner maintaining existing vegetation on site, the owner revegetating the shoreline buffer area, and the owner removing the other two accessory buildings, all to the satisfaction of the town of Huntsville, to be implemented through site plan control. Comments, questions? All in favor? And that's carried. All right, Kelsey, we're on to the last application, 334 North Drive.
Sorted. The last one. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 334 North Drive. The lot is designated waterfront and is zoned Shoreline Residential 1. The application has been submitted to permit the redevelopment of a legal non-conforming dwelling. A minor variance is required to reduce the interior side yard setback on the eastern side from 6 meters to 1.8 meters, and to recognize the 6.2 front yard setback for the existing dryland boathouse. The purpose of the 6-meter interior side yard setback is to ensure adequate distancing between development on abutting lots, allow access and drainage, and create a buffer between properties. The existing non-complying dwelling has a setback of 1.8 meters, and as the height of the dwelling is being increased in its redevelopment, a minor variance is needed to permit the non-complying setback. The dryland boathouse, which is also legal non-complying, is being recognized in its current location. Looking at the waterfront designation, the dwelling is being redeveloped in the same location. Therefore, visual impacts are minimized. The proposed dwelling also reflects the surrounding character of the waterfront area. The natural constraint mapping identifies deer wintering habitat and unevaluated fish habitat at the front of the property. The dwelling is in the cleared area, so adverse impacts to deer wintering habitat will be minimized. Additionally, the retention of existing vegetation will be implemented through site plan control. As the dwelling is sited 42 meters away from the shoreline, risks to fish habitat are mitigated. The dryland boathouse also is in its current location, and there will be no further impact to the fish habitat. It's also within the permitted amenity area. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and to the Lake Vernon Association. One letter of support was received and attached to the report package. Based on these details, the application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Additionally, the application appears to satisfy the 4 tests and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or representative to make any comments.
The applicant or their representative are reminded to use the raise hand button to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I do see one hand raised.
Okay.
A reminder to please have your microphone and video, if possible, turned on before you begin speaking, and confirm your name and mailing address.
I see you there, Mr. Ortlieb. If you put, there you are, your video's on. You're muted.
There you go.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Alan Ortlieb from 334 North Drive, co-applicant to this subject property. Just wanted to thank Chelsea for her presentation. Don't have anything further to add, but available to answer any questions.
Wonderful. If you could just take your video down but remain with us, I'm going to go to the public for any comments.
Members of the public are reminded to use the raise hand button to indicate that they would like to address committee. And Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
All right, thanks very much. Committee members, any comments or questions? All right, seeing none. Moved by Jason Fitzgerald, seconded by Kenneth Donald. Be it resolved that minor variance application A47-2021 HTE be approved. The purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from subsections 3.1.12 and 5.3.47 of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2008-66P in order to conditional on the eastern interior side yard setback. Hang on a second here. What do we got? Be it resolved that minor variance. Yeah, okay. In order to, okay, got it. There's no conditional on, is that correct, Julie?
Yes, thank you, Chair Stone. I just wanted to make the slight correction that actually matches what's in the agenda. My apologies.
Okay, can you put it up on the screen for me?
Certainly.
All right, so I've read the be it resolved, and we are going to reduce the eastern interior side yard setback from 6 meters to 1.8 meters for the dwelling and recognize a 6.2 meter front yard setback for the existing dryland boathouse. Comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Kelsey. That was great. And I don't believe there's anything else. So now that all comments have been received, I declare these public meetings respecting the above applications to be concluded. And moved by Helena Renwick, seconded by Brandon Stapleton, be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 9:29 a.m. All in favor? And that's carried. Not as fast as our